Well, a very good evening to you, race fans, and welcome back once again to Simple Racing Broadcast. It's Tuesday night, which means it's, of course, time for the Alliance Sim Racing Gard Supercar Championship tonight, coming to you for round 3 from Winton Raceway. It's a classic Australian track. It's an absolute pain to get a supercar around, I can tell you that much, and it is going to test the drivers out this evening in what is going to be a slightly reduced from scheduled race time this evening, thanks to some iRacing maintenance that popped up for a little bit later on this evening Australian time, so we do have slightly shorter races to talk about tonight. We'll get to that in just a moment. My name's Jared Cole. In the booth with me once again is Isaac Fogarty. And Isaac, Winton Supercars, mate, it's a classic combo, but it's definitely one that will test our drivers out tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, good evening, Jared. Good evening, everybody tuning in at home. I could not agree more, Jared. This is looks synonymous with Australian motorsport, with supercars itself. We have been racing here on in real life for a large number of years. They don't race here at the moment, but I'm sure they'll be back there hopefully very soon in these Gen 3 cars, and I think we'll get a good example of as to why that should be the case tonight with these Gen 3s on iRacing around Winton. And look, it's a fantastic circuit. These are fantastic cars. We've seen some great racing already this season. Great opening round in Mexico at the Hermanos Rodriguez Autodromo. I think I've said that in the wrong order, but that's fine. We went to the Bend last week. We went to the Bend last week, and look, it again delivered. I think we were a bit worried that the open circuit would probably not provide the racing we were come to expect from these guys, but it absolutely did. The 3Cs coming out in full force, as we've established, the calm, the chaos, and then the I can't remember the other word, but we've got 3Cs. And look, I'm very excited to see what's in this evening holds. As you said, shorter races tonight, so maybe not as long for these drivers. A bit of recalculating have to be done with the strategy that they probably were going to go for. But in saying that, there still is one compulsory stop, so they have to think about coming in at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good opportunity to try out a few different things without the massive risk of fuel issues. So it'll be 2 races of 25 laps tonight, 1 compulsory pit stop in each of those. No reverse grid this evening, which will keep the quick guys up front. And I think that would have been, particularly around Winton, I think any sort of reverse grid might have been a dangerous one. Before we do go on a bit of a lap around here, let's take a look at the championship standings coming into tonight. It's only a couple rounds in, of course. But Brian Borg is holding a small advantage over Will Buchanan at the moment. Mark Poynton sitting in 3rd, and Troy Stone Street dropping just a little bit further back. And then there's a bit more of a gap to the rest of the top 10. Ricky Hyde and Jason Bentz ahead of Phil Manuel. Stephen Varga in there with a 20-point lead over Tony Chapman and Brett Horsell. Nick Geary, almost calling Nick Geary, sorry Nick. Nick Geary sitting in 11th, just outside the top 10, but the top of the pops in the Cup Trophy class at the moment by quite some way over Darryl Callahan. Dean Logsdale sneaking in there in 12th as well, and quite a number of the Cup Trophy drivers all fairly close together in the mid-pack. So it's, look, early days, but a few little gaps starting to form up. A big hello to everybody out there watching this evening. Hope you're ready for some racing action from Winton. Look, before we get any further into it, I do want to take us on a bit of a lap around Winton for our Gard Supercar track, Supercar hot lap. And just for a bit of fun, Isaac and I were talking about this before the broadcast. Let's take you through the most ridiculous number of corner and straight names that I think you've ever heard at any track, as we start down the Katomi Straight towards the start-finish line with Rick Vargo behind the wheel here this evening. We go through turns 1 and 2, the Motorsport News S's, making sure that you do get out wide on the exit and plant the left wheel right between those 2 lines of sausage curbs, down BP Ultimate Straight and then into Honda Corner before we go into the Nissan Corner, turn 4 just after that, then down Foot Waste Straight. For some reason, turn 5 here, this long left-hander, no name at all, go figure, but turn 6, for very good reason, named Rollover Corner. Those curbs on the inside do have a bit of a tendency to flick the inside of the car up there. Through turn 7, Penrite Corner, the tight hairpin, nice and slow, got to get the traction down and be careful. Get around the famous tree here at Winton and into turn 8. Turn 9 is Katomi Corner, nowhere near Katomi Straight, mind you, but it is down this end of the circuit. Another tight little turn that you do have to get the power down carefully out of before you head down Shannon Straight towards turn 10, which is Northern BM Corner. Now, if anyone has any idea why they have so many names around Winton, I'd love to hear about it. Falcon Straight now takes us on the run down towards the final 2 turns as we hit Advanced Petroleum Corner, is turn 11. And then for some reason, the final turn, no name at all. We go past the pit entry through turn 12, and that is a lap of Winton, courtesy of Gard and Rick Varga here this evening as he makes his way to finish this one off.
What a lap of the circuit, Jared. It is, I don't know how they got so many names for different parts of the circuit, but look, I mean, it means you can never be too confused. Surely that's, I think that's the strategy they've gone for. If they have enough names, and you can't forget them. And I think the big thing for me is surely turn 12 would be Katomi Corner, would it not? Because that makes sense because it's attached to the Katomi Straight. But
you'd think so. You'd think so. And
you would think so, but
honestly, look, there are some weird conventions when it comes to racetracks that I've never managed to understand at all. The naming of Winton's corners and straights, I can only assume that, you know, I mean, look, it's Winton. There's a limited number of reasons to visit Winton, and so the amount of, I suppose, sponsor money that's available locally is probably a bit limited. So I guess the best way to keep the racetrack alive is probably to sell each and every bit of sponsorship space that you can find. Hence putting the naming rights of every single part of the track up for grabs. I think that's the best I can come up with to explain Winton, honestly.
I mean, if that's the case, do you think they'll let me sponsor a small slither of the tarmac? Just if I pick a little bit of maybe between turns 7 and 8, if I say that little bit of straight road, that's the Isaac Fogarty straight potentially. If I put enough money towards it, I don't know how much they'd charge me for that, but maybe I could look into it. Might be worth it.
It's worth a crack, isn't it?
But maybe we could scrape something together, get some simple racing broadcast sponsorship going.
Hey, now there's a thought.
If we can just name a little bit of Winton. I think that'd be fantastic advertising for Simple Broadcasting if we can get that together. We'll have to reach out to the people of Winton and find out. Look, Jared, we've got about 3 minutes left in qualifying. It looks like most cars are done their laps though, so we'll hopefully very soon have a representative of exactly what the qualifying session is and what the grid is going to look like. As you said, no reverse grid tonight, which is interesting for me. Usually we see an opportunity if you finish at the back end of the top 10 in race number 1 at ASR. There is that chance to come back in race 2. You start at the front so you can get clean air. You can see what you can do without the pack around you and just being able to lead away from the front. Conversely, the people that found it quite easy in race number 1 have to work hard for the victory in race number 2. We don't have that tonight. I don't know how that would change from a driver's perspective, just the approach that they're going to have to taking on both these races, because if you finish up the front in race number 1, you're going to start there again straight away. Conversely, if you have a bit of a tough time, you're at the back end of the top 10, you're going to have to work hard. You're not rewarded in race number 2 starting at the front.
Yeah, I honestly think one of the big impacts tonight will actually be the compulsory pit stops in each, because it is a fairly short lap. It's only about a minute 22-ish getting around here based on the qualifying times tonight. And you'll spend pretty close to that doing a compulsory pit stop, even if it's just a quick in and out for the splash and go. I actually think we're going to see a lot of lap traffic play its part here tonight, and we'll have to wait and just see if I've got that right. But I kind of expect that the difficulty will be in working the way through the overlaps. And so if you can time everything to perfection and get yourself a lot more clean track, then there's a real opportunity to make up some spots and have another crack at the top end of the field by doing that. But the advantage is absolutely going to be with the front row and having that clear track right off the start. That said, turns 1 and 2, I think we're going to see some pretty argy-bargy kind of approaches to those right off the bat. Now, folks, because of the impending iRacing maintenance, it's going to be a pretty quick little affair this evening. So we're about 30 seconds away from getting a grid. We're going to have to work through the grid very, very quickly for you tonight, because the drivers won't have the usual 2 or 3 minute gridding time. It will be all systems go as soon as everyone does hit the grid. So we'll get through as much of the grid as we possibly can for the first race, and it'll be straight into race 2 with no warm-up in between. So again, look, I don't know that we'll have a great deal of time to actually look at the grid for race 2, but we'll do everything we can to make sure we do bring that all to you here this evening as we see the last of the drivers just finishing up their qualifying laps. Now, we are a matter of seconds away from being able to talk you through how they'll line up here for race number 1, as we wait for iRacing to just finalise those results and let us know who it is that's going to lead us away. And as they start to grid up, this is how it looks. Brian Borg and Troy Stonestreet will take the front row ahead of Will Buchanan and Dean Logsdale. Jason Benson, Mark Point behind them, with Nick Geary and Brett Horsell just behind them as well. As we take a look further back through the grid, Chad Vigar and Luke Powell will line up ahead of Darryl Callahan and Paul Burns, with Trav Daly and Jace Douglas on row 7, Ricky Hyatt and Stephen Varga row 8. Then Tony Chapman and Joel Lustervale line up ahead of Scott Perrins and Abel Verban. Tommy DeWitt and Brad Hayes ahead of Jamie McKnight and Troy Sipple. Then Andrew Hoffman and Josh Harris ahead of Ash Hall and Mick Rudd. Craig Rose and Rick Vigar taking the last spots on the grid. It's 30 cars here this evening, and we are just about ready to go racing already. We've managed to get through the grid in a record time, so with no further ado, we will start to think about heading on down to the circuit. And you can see most of the cars already on track and getting ready to go racing here. I don't know what to expect here in the first one. And a big hello to Tim Nicol Photography. Tim checking in from race control. Hopefully he's not going to have too much on his hands this evening, but Yeah, look, you never really know with these ones. It could be a very, very clean start. I'm expecting Borg and Stone Street, though, to go into that first couple of turns absolutely neck and neck, and probably a little bit of door banging on the way through, I reckon, as they try and get established on the cold tyres.
Would not be surprised if there's a bit of elbows out in the early stages of this one. We're just waiting on a couple more cars. I think Rick Vigar, Jamie McKnight, the only two cars left to grid up in this one. So we're not too far away from a green flag here, Jared, which is fantastic. But yeah,
sorry, Isaac, Rick Vigar will actually have a pit lane start tonight. So he'll be starting from back there.
Oh, yes, 014. Yep, that was in the race control report coming into this evening.
Everyone on the
Chubby
grid.
is out there.
Lights are up, Rick Vigar for his pit start, waiting and ready to jump out as soon as he can. Lights come up, the revs go up, and we are away for race number 1. 25 laps lie ahead of us as we charge on down, and a clean start pretty much all the way down. Let's have a look and see if we do actually get everyone through here without any damage. And straight away we've got cars off. That's Chad Vigar getting punted off the track there. Looks like Darryl Callahan getting caught up with it as well, and not surprised at all to see a little bit of chaos starting to unfold early on. Very, very close run thing. And we've got another car off. That's Dean Logsdale getting it just shoved aside there. We're starting to see quite a few cars already just finding themselves in a bit of trouble. But as we start to get into this back and forth 8, 9, 10 section, Brian Borg has found himself well in front. Troy Stone Street has managed to stick with it, but he's actually dropped a spot to Will Buchanan through those early corners, and now we're starting to get some semblance of a racing order as you see them all spread out through the back and forth, the S's through the back there. And yeah, look, this is where it starts to settle in. I don't think we've had a safety car call. Looks like Tim and Todd are both quite happily just sitting in the garage next to the safety car at the moment still, so nothing called. Everyone's managed to get rolling again. But it was a close run thing for a moment there, I think, with some of the early moments.
Yeah, good sign that everybody's still rolling and we are green. Keep in mind, we are going time certain fairly strictly this evening. 41 minutes allocated to each race. So if we do get a safety car, potentially one, even or especially two safety cars in a race, that will mean we're looking at a time certain finish, depending on how these guys go. It's about 1.5 minutes for a lap time around here, 1:20 once they get up to speed. And yeah, it's something I'm just going to keep an eye on. But for now, we are green, we are still running. This is Luke Powell, back into the top 10. He's got pressure. Well, he's putting pressure on Ricky Hyde in front for 801 Sim Sports, but he's got Stephen Varga right in behind him as well, also applying pressure in this little battle pack. And this is through Penrite corner, turn 7 up the inside. Chase Douglas, what a move on Paul Burns up the inside, absolutely sent the overtake, made it stick, and that was beautiful stuff.
We've got all sorts of fun happening in the background, and Brad Hayes just a little bit of a nudge there. And I think we've got, Trav Daly, a big incident now. Trav Daly's been caught up right in the middle of that. Paul Burns is stuck there as well, and this is going to take some fixing from the race control here this evening, I think, because we've got cars everywhere. It does look like they're going to get moving. I'm not sure what's happened, and Paul Burns has immediately tried to get rolling and has been pushed sideways by, it looks like Ustavar, who's stuck back there with him. It is indeed. Wow, that was a bit of an interesting moment. We'll go back and we'll take a look at that in a second.
Well, that all started with Paul Burns being spun as well. So that was at the back end of the top 10, I believe. That was, I don't know exactly who that was, but he was battling, and there was contact, and as a result, he spun around, and Logsdale, Vigar, Harris diving in early to get this mandatory pit stop out of the way. So they do have to stop at least once in this race. Ostervald also into the lane to get that stop done. But yeah, that all started with Paul Burns facing around the wrong way. Here we go, folks. This will help us unpack exactly what's going on. So this is Scotty Perrins. We'll keep an eye on him. It's already happening up in front. So up the inside goes his teammate. And you can see in the foreground Paul Burns, and I believe it's Jace Douglas in behind Paul Burns. So that could be where it starts. No, this is
this is way
this must be the lap before.
This is okay. What's happening here, folks? Is Winton being what Winton is? The race pace is so slow through those corners that we've got cars actually getting picked up for
Everything's a crash.
hitting a crash because they're getting down to as low as 55k an hour through there. So it might take us a little bit more work to just unravel where everyone's at there. So bear with us for just a second while we try and pick out exactly where it did all go wrong for so many of the drivers there. But I think it would have been where. Oh geez, where did it all go wrong? There's the question. Might have been Jace Douglas and Paul Burns, but
it was Paul Burns. We know that for sure. I believe it was actually Jace Douglas who got the move done. So this was beforehand. So we can follow this, and this will actually give us an idea, because up the inside goes Jace Douglas. This was the spectacular move we saw at the time that we called out. Up the inside at 7, made it stick, and then through 8, and you can see in behind it's actually one of the M1 Racing cars that go up the inside, and just the contact, and look at the concertina effect, the follow on multiple M1 cars, and look at everybody arriving on the scene. Abel Verban's a part of this as well, and that was fairly messy, unfortunately, in the end. And the man that caused it all, one of the M1 Racing cars, I'm just trying to work out who exactly that was. I don't believe it was Luke Powell. He was in front of that, so possibly...
No, Tommy DeWitt was in there.
Tommy DeWitt. It was one of the M1 Racing cars, potentially Darryl Callahan or Trav Daly were the other two M1 Racing cars I
think it must have been Darryl Callahan, because Trav Daly, you could see coming through in the background, and he just kind of got caught up in it with nowhere to go. So it looks like it must have been Darryl Callahan who just sent the move up the inside. And look, Winton, you've got to get the moves done when you can, really. But probably a little bit ambitious at that point to try and push through. In any case, race control will get to that when they get to it. As we see, you might have caught there for a moment, folks, an update from race control. Early incident between car 016 and 137. So that was Darryl Callahan and Chad Vigar in the opening stages through 1 and 2. Was a net code collision. So no further action to be taken on that one. But again, tonight, I don't know what it is lately, and maybe this is a bit of confirmation bias here, Isaac, but I feel like this is where we've seen all of the great battles really unfolding across all of the races we've covered, not just in ASR, but actually across a number of series over the last month or two. Everything seems to focus around the back end of the top 10. It just seems to be where all of these groups find themselves.
Yeah, it's certainly where all the battles start to appear, isn't it? I don't know what it is either. Maybe there's just a magnet for it in the back end of these top 10s, but no matter what series you go to, what sort of cars they're racing, there is always something happening, and we can see on our screen at the moment it's still happening. It's in between car 10 and car 989, a 10-second penalty for car 989.
It's Josh Harris.
That is Josh Harris, so 10-second penalty for Josh Harris as a result of a earlier collision. So he's come away from the stewards as well.
That was a collision with Brad Hayes. So we'll go back and we'll see what we can see of that one as well, because it's there's a few things that obviously happened in the background that we have not seen. The Chubby Buns replay, though, as always, right there. Brad Hayes, you can see heading towards the outside of the corner. Look to the inside. There's Josh Harris just sending it up the inside, but unfortunately was a long way back by the time Hayes has started to turn in, and so not really much of anywhere to go. But there's always going to be a bit of chaos in the opening sectors, with everyone trying to get themselves sorted out. I'm not surprised to see a few incidents. Actually more surprised we didn't have more. Really the one big one we've had was not an incident really worth mentioning. It just happened to be a nose to tail of about 6 or 7 cars. It wasn't anything particularly huge about the initial impact.
No, yeah, that's right. There wasn't anything really that was major or a huge incident. We see Brett Horsell diving into the lane for his stop, and it's a bit of a long pit lane. You've got to go all the way to the outside, and then it's a bit of a left-right chicane into the lane once you're already down at speed. So it feels like it takes forever to get around the pit lane, especially the pit entry here at Winton. But yeah, look, it was a bit of a concertina effect, wasn't it? There was nothing really major about the initial contact, but it just can snowball, especially when you've got a pack like this so close together at a circuit like Winton, so many cars. It's very, very easy for one small incident to snowball. This is the brand new red livery on the Mustang Mods car for Brian Borg, which is looking fantastic, I must say. The red replaced the silver / chrome colour that we're so used to seeing on this Mustang Mods car. And then Will Buchanan in behind for AITX Revolution E-Racing. He is putting the pressure on, trying to stay with him. Will Buchanan is a regular customer on the Simple Racing broadcast channel. We've seen him in ASR and also in the Trans Am series on Monday nights in the Euro NASCAR. Didn't quite have the night last night. He was probably hoping for, I think, to get his season underway in that series, but he is looking very, very strong so far in this one and putting the pressure on Brian Borg.
Meanwhile, Mark Boynton, who's been pretty quick so far this season and continues to push on, he's on the tap. Jason Bentz, who, look, we saw and spoke to him a few times last season. Towards the end, as he sort of found his rhythm. He's definitely gotten off to a solid start this season and continues to battle it out up front. So good to see him continuing that run of form into season 9. Mark Boynton just trying to go with him. Just behind is actually the front of the Cup Trophy class, Nick Geary, a fair way up on the next of the Cup Trophy cars. Jace Douglas in 10th, the next Cup Trophy competitor, 3 or 4 cars behind. And I think Geary's going to be enjoying that. Now Harris has picked up a meatball somewhere, which is an interesting one. There's not a lot to hit here at Winton. You've got to either hit the tree at turn 8 there in the background, or go a fair way off the circuit before you'll actually hit a wall. Let's see if we can just find what's actually happened for Harris. I wonder if it's actually a connection issue.
Yeah,
that certainly looks like it. That's a huge hit as a result.
That is a huge hit.
I
think massive hit.
I think that's well and truly connection issues there, and he's probably decided to not risk, making any inputs and ending up in front of another car that couldn't see him. So he's put his own race aside there tonight. Josh Harris may or may not get back out on track. Not sure what to expect at this point. Towards the back end of the pack on track, but some of the first drivers that did pit in, we've got Rick Vigar and Dean Logsdale just swapping spots here as Vigar sets himself up on the inside in the long run down this, what is this, straight number 3, I think. Although it's hard to keep track of. I've just got to go back to my Shannon Straight, and then into Falcon, and gets himself out in front. Logsdale sticking with him, Abel Burban in the background, and we will see these drivers just keep pushing along, knowing that they are going for that undercut at the moment. The one that's really out in front though, Brett Horsell, very early stop. Although not as early as Vigar and Logsdale, came in on lap 6 and has absolutely made the most of it. He finds himself a good few spots up on Vigar, Logsdale, Burban, Hoffman. I wonder how many of those guys actually did have to come in for a bit of damage repair. But the actual time spent in pits for almost all the cars, hovering around about 10 seconds. To Jasmine's point, in the chat, I don't think anyone's going to take tyres tonight. I don't think the difference in pace will be so noticeable around Winton that you're going to get that much extra pace out of a new set of tyres, and you are going to lose a bit of time as you try and get them up to temp. So my guess, and we'll try and confirm it in our post-race interviews, but I would be very surprised if any drivers are taking tyres. I also can't off the top of my head ever remember how long a set of tyres takes to fix up here, how long it actually takes to swap them across. So I don't know if 10 seconds is going to be enough.
I certainly don't think so. And look, I'll be honest, given the stop times, I really don't think anyone is. It says, well, this is probably not super accurate. If you're changing 2 tyres on iRacing, I don't know whether you can do that or not. I've never actually tested it, but it takes 5 to 10 seconds to do. It takes 5 to 10 seconds to do 2 tyres, 35 to 45 seconds depending on the vehicle class to do 4 tyres. So no one's definitely no one's taking 4 tyres. There could be a potential someone's taking 2, but I don't know whether you can do fuel and tyres at the same time. So if you can't, definitely no one's taking tyres, because it wouldn't take 10 seconds to do fuel and tyres separately. Looking into the lane now, this is Luke Powell coming in for his stop. Incident between car 110 and 1:37 on lap 2, a drive-through penalty for Callahan. So that's the contact that took place with Paul Burns. And for his part in that, Darryl Callahan has received a drive-through penalty, which is a fairly hefty whack from the stewards.
And given that our good friend Luke Orman missed this one, here's a shot of the incident in question, and this is what's earned Callahan the drive-through. Shoves the nose up the inside, turns Burns, and creates a massive pile-up as a result. Just nowhere to go. A couple of cars managed to sneak around, but as you can see him just piling up behind there. It definitely was not the move, that one. And I think a drive-through, look, it's a big hit for sure, but probably not entirely unreasonable given the impact that one had on so many drivers and their chances here tonight.
Yeah, certainly not ideal at all to have to serve a drive-through, but hey, you get caught up in an incident, you're going to find out what race control thinks of that, and that is exactly what they think of that. He's served that now. We'll still have to come in and do his stop at some point. Will Buchanan from the second place on the road has come into the lane for his mandatory stop. We'll see exactly what those times look like. Everyone's hovering around that 10-second mark. A little bit over for a couple of drivers. Tommy DeWitt the longest at the moment with 12.3 seconds. The fastest at the moment is Rick Vigo with 9.6 seconds. So everyone's within about a second or two of each other. Will Buchanan 10.1 second stop, and he'll now come back out onto the circuit at the end of his mandatory stop, and I guess we'll try and push, hopefully, in a little bit of clean air. I don't exactly know where he is or who he's around, but he will want maybe a little bit of clean air. He's got a couple of seconds to Chad Vigo up in front to push and go for the undercut on Brian Borg here.
I appreciate the back and forth as we figure out the times in the chat. It saves me from having to remember all this stuff. Appreciate you both, Luke and Sean Vandermeulen, I believe, dropping into the chat there. G'day, Sean. How are you, mate? It's been a moment since we've seen you around. Hope you're doing well. About 9.4 seconds for 4 tyres for the Gen 3 and about 18 litres of fuel. So, look, entirely possible that drivers are getting the tyres done. It's a pretty close thing. So yeah, it's entirely possible that there are drivers actually taking tyres, given that they're all hovering around that 10-second mark. As we see some of the front runners starting to come in and pull their mandatory pit stop at about the halfway point. Ben's pointing, Geary and Jace Douglas as well. Litres per second, Jasmine, look, somewhere around 2 litres a second of fuel that you'll get in with these things, which is it's reasonably similar across most cars on iRacing, bar a couple of specific instances where they reduce the flow to match a real life series. I was taking a look at, I can't even think of what it was. One of the GT3 official series, and I think I don't want to say NES because I'm probably wrong there, but I know they do reduce the fuel flow rate as part of the series rules there. Jason Benson now getting some attention from Brad Hayes, incidentally, at the back end of the top 10, 7th and 8th there, although Hayes just a little bit slower at the moment. And we're seeing a fair few changes in position as the pit stops do start to work themselves out. Just keeping your eye on, well, Will Buchanan and Jason Bentz have come through and made their stops. We saw a little earlier on that we were looking at the likes of Vigar and Logsdale, who had made some very early stops on lap 2. Brett Horsell was well out in front from his stop of anyone else who'd been in, but have a look at the difference now. Buchanan and Bentz have both been in, and they are a long way up the road. Even from Horsell, Jace Douglas has been in ahead of him, as has Poynton, Hyde and Geary. So it's really going to be a question of what difference this makes for the likes of Buchanan and Bentz are about 4 seconds behind, but Will Buchanan absolutely storming through at the moment. Troy Stone Street, though, coming out. This is going to be a close run thing. He's not too far behind Buchanan, so he'll be in this with a shot. And Jason Bentz coming as well. Yeah, that's probably not what Buchanan had in mind, but he's kept it moving.
He's Stone Street on the power slide on the entry of 1. I think that was he's in a sprint car driver there, just trying to come out, but he's regained control. The track tyres are getting up to temperature, and
Yeah, probably confirms the tyre swap theory, actually. Given how much he lit those up, they absolutely will be freshies.
Yeah, I don't think used tyres, even if they've sat in the lane for that long or at a slower speed,
They don't
will
lose
be
that much.
they don't lose that much grip or temperature. So I think the tyre theory is probably confirmed, and it's the last time I trust Reddit or the internet for absolutely anything, because I'm trying to do research on the fly about how long it takes to do tyres, and I'm being fed duds by the people of the internet. So luckily we've got Luke Orman and
never
Sean
lied to us before, Isaac.
No, the internet's always factually correct, and I don't know why anyone would think otherwise, but luckily we've got Sean and Luke and everyone in the chat to help us out, to let us know exactly. These guys drive these cars all the time. They know exactly what to expect. And this is Mark Poynton and Ricky Hyde. And Ricky Hyde didn't get it quite right on the exit, and Mark Poynton has opened the door for him to go straight through up into P7. Another place gained in this race for Mark Poynton after a difficult qualifying. He is down one from where he started, but and I say that, and only Stephen Varga is left to pit, so Brian Borg has actually been in the lane and is back out on circuit, and Will Buchanan's right with him. We are watching this battle on our screen now. It looks to the outside, couldn't get anything done. We'll have to settle in behind for now, but Will Buchanan, the undercut almost worked.
Yeah, it wasn't too far off getting him ahead, but Brian Borg just super consistent here, very, very quick. I mean, he was saying that he enjoyed Winton, if memory serves, last week. So definitely showing it off at the moment. But this battle's set to go pretty well right the way to the end. The pit stops were about the only thing that separated them for a few laps, and as soon as they've caught back up, it's right back on for young and old. Stephen Varga out in front only has about 18 seconds, so that's half what he'll need to stay ahead of these two on the other side of his pit stop. So it's really going to be Borg and Buchanan from here to the end. Troy Stone Street not too far off the back, but a couple of seconds is a lot to make up around a track like Winton. There's just not a huge amount of time to be found each and every lap. You look at the consistency of the lap times that we're seeing as they roll on through, and it's, tell you what, the best lap times are all within a second from top to bottom of best to worst. There's absolutely nothing in it here.
Yeah, there is nothing in it with all these guys, and that's the nature of a circuit like Winton. It's not very long. It's a short lap time, and the shorter the lap time is, the shorter the distance of the circuit, the closer the lap time ends up being together, because there's not as much room for there to be major differences. There is a lot of turning time, a lot of braking zones at Winton, a lot of time to lose speed, but if you can get a flow in these cars especially, it is easy to maintain that pace and for everyone to keep up with each other, and it just goes to show the competitiveness of this field as well. This is Tommy DeWitt, Darryl Callahan battling away. Darryl Callahan on the fight back after that drive-through penalty he served for the contact with Paul Burns, was handed to him by race control, and now finds himself in 25th position. The good news for Darryl Callahan is we have a second race coming up, and while he won't get any advantages with any sort of reverse grid, he will have the field neutralised and get to go again. Dean Logsdale, for those playing along at home, is back to 18th after dropping to pretty much dead last on the road after that contact, well, the off-road excursion he had at the start of the race on lap 1 on the exit of turn 4. And that's a good job from Dean to get back to there, but he'll want to be a lot higher up by the time we get to the end of this race, and no doubt the end of the second race this evening. Has a bit of a tough break for Dean Logsdale on his return to the series so far this season. Has shown good pace, but things just haven't gone his way. He's been caught up in incidents that weren't necessarily his fault on occasion, and it's just really set him back. So hopefully we can see him bounce back this evening, and then in the following rounds can really hopefully put that pace to some good use. We go next week to Phillip Island, which again is another iconic Australian circuit, much like Winton, and I'm sure, as with all of these drivers, he has a lot of experience around that place, and hopefully we see him stay towards the front of the field like we know he can be.
Two teammates, Craig Rose and Scotty Perrins from Quantum Racing, just having their own little battle going on down towards the back of the pack here. I'm glad to see a bit of conversation in the chat around Winton not being a fantastic track for supercars. It's a real stop-go track. It's a lot of work for a driver getting around Winton, and every time, and I don't doubt that it'll be exactly the same. We do chat to people a little bit later on tonight, but every driver I've ever spoken to after putting a supercar around Winton says that it's been an absolute workout, despite it not necessarily being a long race. It's just constantly either hard on the accelerator trying to control the car out of a corner, or hard on the brakes trying to get it pulled up into another corner. There's really not a great deal of time to recover here at all, or to even think. You've just got to be constantly on. And add to that the fact that this track is just full of corners that supercars love to hate. You know, this extended left-hander we're seeing Rose and Perrins go through at the moment, it's just this constant balancing act on the throttle, and same again as you bring it back the other way, and then you've got to get it pulled up into the hairpin and you go again. It's a lot of work putting a supercar around Winton, and certainly not one of my favourite tracks for a number of reasons.
Yeah, it's a very, very busy circuit. There's a lot of turning time, a lot of braking, and so much to think about up the inside now. Trav Daly on Rick Vigar trying to get this spot. This is for 20th, so the spot inside the top 20, the last spot inside the top 20. They're going to come side by side onto the front straight, but I think Trav Daly's got that one done.
What a great drive out of the corner, considering how far up the inside of it he was.
Has he got traction control in that thing?
Surely that's not allowed.
I think we're going to have to check Trav Daly's supercar at the end of this one for traction control, because I don't think I've ever seen anyone get as good a drive off the quarter as Trav Daly just did. But no, that was a brilliant power transfer, and it's so hard to get right in these cars. You have to really feather the throttle coming onto the straight. You gas it up too early, that car's going to rotate, and he's absolutely nailed it. And as a result, has just driven away from Rick Vigar. Now we jump over to the other member of the Vigar family, putting Troy Sipple under pressure, both in strong positions. And look, he's moved up the timing tower a little bit. Troy Sipple 10 places up. Chad Vigar down 10 from where he started, but he's putting pressure on.
Chubby Buns replay. Let's go all the way back to the start of this race. Kate, take a look at Chad Vigar. This is the very first incident we saw where he's been spat off. That's Callahan up inside. That was a bit of netcode contact, though, that has sent Vigar off to the side, but that's where he's lost all his positions. Turn one, the rest of the field just carries on, and the Chubby Buns replay shows exactly why he's down so far through the field at the moment. Look, he's catching up. He's only down 6 from where he started, but it's certainly not the result he would have hoped for, and unfortunate, that little bit of contact.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. Not ideal at all, but
he's moving over very kindly for Longsdale there.
Letting him go, just opening the door, and we jump back to the teammates, and Ash Hall's decided to join the Quantum Chevrolet Camaro party. And now we have 3 visually identical cars, all battling for 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th on the road.
It's not entirely true. There's some different coloured wheels going on.
Well, who's who? We'll let you work that out, because there is some different coloured wheels, but hopefully you can work out at home exactly who's in what position.
The more surprising thing, two more surprising things. One, there's Brian Borg. He's about to catch them and lap these guys, which is just showing how much speed he's had since coming out of that pit stop. He's absolutely opened up to Will Buchanan. Look at this, they're all going to get caught up here. Borg's going to get really stuck. This is an opportunity for Buchanan to just reel it back in a bit as they try and get out of the way. Borg's going to go through. But the more surprising thing for me is that, oh no, there's been contact. Borg's been spun. Oh. Just a little bit of contact there from Scott Perrins, I think it was, or was it Ash Hall actually making contact with Brian Borg, and that's put Borg back behind Will Buchanan. That's gonna bring some sort of penalty, I'm sure, from race control. We'll wait and see over the next few laps as we get news back on that. But Brian Borg will now be head down, desperately trying to claim that one back. Will Buchanan gifted the top position, but has to hold on to it for 5 more laps around Winton. And given the pace Borg has had, that's going to be a big ask, I think.
Yeah, that'll be a huge ask to get that spot back. And look, Buchanan he's been really desperate to try and get past Borg, and Borg's going to really put the pressure on him here, but the door is well and truly opened for Buchanan to try and disappear at the road. I don't think he will, but he can certainly try and defend this position with everything he's got. Stone Street and Bent's not too far behind, so if this battle goes on, they can find that speed difference. They could close up and really become a part of this, and we could have a 4-way battle with only a few laps to go. But Buchanan is going to be under pressure now with 4 laps left in this race, and the question mark over exactly what caused that incident to have Brian Borg facing the wrong way.
Yeah, to finish the thought that I started before all of that, what I was going to say about the quantum racing cars is one of the most surprising things is that the team boss, Troy Sipple, actually allows Chevrolets in the quantum racing team. That's not something you'd expect from Sips. He's one of the most passionate Ford blokes I think you'll ever meet, and the fact that he even allows a Chevy into his team is honestly testament to just how open-minded the bloke can be from time to time. But you try and suggest that you might drive one day. Yeah, no, forget it.
It's always nice to try new things and allow different brands to be a part of, and I think maybe it's a bit of sympathy for doing so well in supercars at the moment. He probably feels a bit bad for them and says to Chevy, "Oh well, you know, I guess we can put some of your cars in our team because, you know, it would do you good to have a few more cars on the grid and give you a little bit more chance at doing well." But I think these Ford Mustangs are just so quick and they look so good. And I'll be completely honest, Jared. I was a Holden man. I was born and raised a Holden fan, and then we got to these Gen 3 cars, and look, I looked at the Chevy and went, look, it looks okay, but this Ford Mustang just looks absolutely spectacular. Like, you can't hate it. It looks fantastic. It looks so aggressive, so beautifully designed compared to the Gen 2 Ford Mustang, and I think slowly, ever so surely, I'm probably becoming a little bit of a Ford fan myself, because it's not really the way I justify it. It's not really Holden anymore, is it? It's still General Motors, but it's Chevrolet now, and it's not the same. And these Ford Falcons look fantastic.
At the Holden vs Ford rivalry, I don't think it actually will ever. Oh, big contact there. Ricky Hyde gets spun.
Huge contact.
Stephen Varga just holds his line, and Hyde gets speared unceremoniously off. He's going to try and get it started over, corrects just a little bit as he tries to get it rolling. And I tell you what, it's been one of those nights. Mark Poynton has just come alongside his teammate Nick Geary and has come through, picked up the extra spot, so they'll swap over and Poynton up into 5th, while Geary will retain 6th and head of the Cup Trophy class as we get into the closing stages of this opening race. Behind them, a couple of the Quantum Racing boys who have been lapped earlier. And yeah, look, I don't think that Ford vs Holden thing ever went away, really. But you're right. I don't think there's a bunch of Holden fans out there who, and particularly when I look at the list of Chevy drivers here, I don't think they drive Chevy because of a love for Holden. I think they drive it purely because they refuse to drive anything with a Ford badge, regardless of the fact that neither of these cars are anything like Australian anymore.
No, it's all American now, isn't it? And look, there's a whole bunch of politics we can get into with that, and I don't think we have the time or the energy. I don't think we have the time or the energy in this broadcast to go off on that tangent. Instead, we'll focus on the racing that's happening on the circuit. But look, all I can say is I hope sooner rather than later that this Toyota Supra is added to iRacing and we get that in because that would be absolutely fantastic to see all three brands in a supercar series on iRacing, because that Supra looks absolutely fantastic. And tell you what, in real life, it sounds even better than it looks. I remember that thing rolled out at Bathurst last year and it just sounded absolutely fantastic. So the sooner we get that in iRacing, if we could hurry that up, if the devs are listening, that would be brilliant. This is some aggressive racing now. Brian Borg, Will Buchanan's been under a bit of pressure. He made a couple of small mistakes in the first few turns here on the 24th lap, and Brian Borg is desperately trying to capitalise on the pressure that he is putting Will Buchanan under. He's getting twitchy in front, and Borg is searching for any little error, a little opportunity to try and get past. If he's just left the slightest amount of room, I have to feel like he's going to take it here.
You'd have to think so. I suspect there's just a little bit of damage to Borg's car though, because he's come right off the pace, and sure, a lot of that has to do with being behind Buchanan and trying to find a way past, but he's just not quite had the pace that he did have before that contact. So yeah, not at all the way he'd want to finish this one. I mean, second is better than pushing too hard and ending up off the track and even further back, but geez, what could have been for Brian Borg? Good to get confirmation in the chat that I was right. NES is the slower refuel rate for GT3. What do you know? I do retain some information occasionally.
There you go. It's
oh, look at that background to Stone Street, lighting them up into the final turn. There's the white flag. We're on to the final lap. Buchanan and Borg. I don't know if Borg's got anything left to give here. It's Brian Borg. Never ride him out yet. He's got something left in the tank, but where he uses it, we're not quite sure. He's going to have to set himself up at just the right moment to try and get this move and to make it stick. So he's going to look
for where Will Buchanan is most vulnerable. He's sized him up for the last 4 or 5 laps. He knows where he's stronger. He just has to find that opportunity to try and capitalise.
That said, Buchanan, despite the few little moments, is holding on brilliantly at the moment, just positioning the car to make this really difficult. And Winton is one of those places where you can make one of these cars the entire width of the track very, very easily. There's not a lot of opportunity. Borg has a bit of a sniff at it there, but Buchanan, just holding his racing line, comes across, closes the door, and knows that he's got this pretty much wound up from here. He just needs to keep it clean through these last couple of turns, and this first race should go the way of Will Buchanan and AITX Revolution iRacing. It's been an eventful opening race here. Borg has a look up the inside just in the hope that there might be an error under brakes, but Will Buchanan just too consistent across the closing stages of this one, and he'll come home to take the win. The lights flashing, and there's the checkered flag. Comes across the line. Brian Borg in second. Troy Stonestreet in third. Jason Bentz a few seconds further back. Stephen Varga now is just trying to find a way past. There's only a few close battles left on circuit here, and this is one of them. Stephen Varga really needs to drive out of the final turn. He's not going to get there, so Jace Douglas will stay ahead and pick up 7th place on track. Tony Chapman just a little bit too far back from Jamie McKnight to really threaten too much for P12 at this stage. McKnight rounds that final turn and he'll roll across the line and bring it home pretty comfortably. Really a surprisingly spread out pack by the time you get through 25 laps here.
Yeah, it's ended up more spread out than I would have expected, but no safety cars. That certainly plays a factor in why we have such a spread out field. But coming across the line, this is Hoffman and Trav Daly coming to finish their laps now, and Daly will finish in the last spot inside the 10. Joel Osterwald will come home in 21st from Rick Varga. Paul Burns, had a bit of a tough one there with that spin around from Darryl Callahan, who finishes 24th, and then Tommy DeWitt will be the last car to cross the line in 25th position. A great drive from Dean Logsdale to come back to 16th, and looking forward to seeing if he can continue to move forward. Also a great drive from Jamie McKnight, who started right at the back of the field and finished 12th in that one.
Yeah, some good results in amongst it as Will Buchanan brings it home, and a win that he'll gladly take, I'm sure. We are going straight into the grid here for race number 2, so let's see if we can get this up and all sorted out for everybody as quickly as possible. So Buchanan and Borg will take the front row. Troy Stonestreet and Jason Bentz ahead of Poynton and Geary, then Jace Douglas and Stephen Varga behind them. Luke Powell and Ricky Hyde will round out the top 10. Brett Horsell and Jamie McKnight behind them. Tony Chapman and Chad Vigar ahead of Troy Sipple and Dean Logsdale, then Abel Verban and Brad Hayes, with Andrew Hoffman and Trav Daly rounding out your 20. Joel Osterwald and Rick Vigar ahead of Paul Burns and Darryl Callahan. Tommy DeWitt and Scott Perrins, then Craig Rose and Ash Hall. And the question will be, we see Mick Rudd on 29th. Will we see Josh Harris back in 30th, or is the connection issue going to continue for him? I suspect we probably won't see him rejoin, purely to avoid any recurrence of that. He would absolutely not want to take anybody out in this second race if he finds himself with continuing connection issues. We are underway, ready to go. Josh Harris not rejoining. Jamie McKnight not making it to the grid either by the look of things, and Brian Borg also as we start to get underway. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but Brian Borg has not made the start line, so that's going to make for a very, very interesting race 2 if he's starting from the pits as he makes his way out of the pit. Next to a big moment there for Troy Stonestreet already, and you can see cars off all over the place. That's Paul Burns, Andrew Hoffman, Paul Burns, and that is Rick Vigar that's facing the wrong way. And geez, we didn't even make it through turn 1 before it started, and as always, race 2 kicks off in the usual fashion, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is, again, race 2. We get to the chaos of the second race. Luckily, there's no race 3. There'll be no carnage, but it's not an ideal start. Brian Borg had to start from the pit lane, didn't make the first race here, or the start of this second race, here this evening, as you said, and that's disappointing for the man that looked so promising in race number 1 that he didn't make the start. And again, short turnaround time, so there wasn't a lot of time for him to sort out and try and get gridded up, and it felt like it was just like an instantaneous thing, didn't it? There was no warm-up period, no 1 or 2 minute break. You pretty much cross the line and get back to the pits and get out to the grid and go again. But We are underweight Will Buchanan from Jason Bentz. Yes, go on. Sorry.
The problem for Borg is that he did join the grid, and then, for whatever reason, jumped back off the grid. Now, just jumping onto the grid, if you're not familiar with iRacing, folks, the standard grid start will begin the light sequence as soon as every driver connected to the session has actually jumped onto the grid. Once you've done that, and look, to be fair, it's possible that the race control had manually started that one, but the flag will start. The light sequence will start as soon as every driver has joined the grid. Now, if you join the grid and leave the grid again, it still counts you as having actually positioned up on the grid, and so if the last driver does jump in and you haven't made it back into your car, that countdown sequence is starting. There's no two ways around it. So that'll find, unfortunately, Brian Borg with quite a bit of work to do, and with that start from the pits, he's going to have to fight his way through what is a very, very long train of cars. We're watching, once again, right around that P10 spot is where it's all starting to bunch up a little bit. Trav Daly has made his way through pretty consistently. He's up 7 spots so far in this race as we get through just the second lap here. But there's been a few other movers as well. The big one, though, obviously Brian Borg dropping all the way back, is having to fight through from the very back of the field. Jay McKnight not making the start of this race, neither did Josh Harris. As we see Will Buchanan out very comfortably in front. Brett Horsell comes in, Brian Borg coming in. I mean, what else do you do at this point if you're Borg? You have to go for the massive undercut, surely.
Yeah, you don't really have much other of a choice, do you? So they've got to come in early, get the compulsory pit stop out of the way, and just be done with it, really. Tick that box, and yeah, it's not ideal, but that's what you're going to have to do. And there we go, into the lane for Borg. Horsell, Douglas is out, unfortunately, as well in this one. So 3 drivers out of the race. We're watching, this is Dean Logsdale back on the cusp of the top 10 already. He's doing well so far in this one.
And 10-second penalty there for Tommy DeWitt for contact with Craig Rose on the opening lap. I do want to go back and take a bit of a look at what happened there in the early stages, because I wasn't sure exactly what kicked it all off, to be honest. There's definitely some further contact after the start, but we might go back and just see if we can get a bit of an idea of how it is that Rick Vigar ended up backwards. We saw a big lock up there from Chad Vigar. He's going to drop a few spots. So Vigar has phased through another car. I've got no idea what's happened there. That's some very, very interesting collisions or not happening for Vigar, and that probably threw him a fair bit, I reckon. You don't often see that. Something about that chicane at Winton. We saw a netcode collision there in the first race, and Vigar has basically driven through another car with no real issue. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. Again, Winton, turn 1. We knew it was going to be chaos, and that it absolutely was in both races. The Chubby Buns replay is going to give us some more of the story of what's been happening around the field. This is Tommy DeWitt and Craig Rose up the inside, contact with Craig Rose, and unfortunately for Rosie, that means that he gets a bit of an excursion off the circuit and manages to rejoin and get that car going again. But no doubt stewards will have a look at that one after the contact. DeWitt currently sitting 20th place, and Rose now down in 23rd. After a few drivers have stopped. Brian Borg's just got a move done on Chad Vigar to move up a spot as he continues to try and fight back in this race. This is Trav Daly, Troy Sipple. So Dean Logsdale's gotten past Troy Sipple and moved into the top 10 and is now setting after Luke Powell, who's riding behind Chapman. But Trav Daly, he is also in a good position. This is the battle. This is Chapman and Powell battling. So Powell's trying to put Tony Chapman under pressure. This will be, big slide for Luke Powell. And
contact with Logsdale as well.
The big slide, but Logsdale's caught it. He's going to lose some spots, but he has caught it. And Luke Powell, that car was just unsettled. He was all over the place. Logsdale came through to try and capitalise, and it just resulted in the contact between the two of them, which as a result has ended in tears for both drivers. And Logsdale, who fought so hard to be back in the top 10, is now continuing to find this hard luck story that's been going on for him so far across the course of the season. And just when he looked like he was in a strong position, he's dropped back down to 14th.
Yeah, probably just a little bit too eager to get going again was Luke Powell. He's that rejoin, I suspect, will be looked at under some scrutiny, I would think, from race control. I would be very surprised if we don't hear something from them in just a moment. He was desperate to get moving again after that first incident, and just probably went a little bit too hard, a little bit too soon, and didn't give quite enough room there to get through that corner without tagging Logsdale. That's my very unprofessional opinion without a second look at it, but maybe we'll go and we'll have another look and see if we can spot anything different. Nick Geary finds himself in the mid of the top 10 at the moment. Troy Stone Street on his tail. It looks like he's going to get this one as he gets a better exit. Nick Geary just a little bit too aggressive on the throttle, loses a bit of traction, and Stone Street goes up into 5th now as we see Sipple come into the pit lane, and some of those pit stops starting to happen just a little bit earlier than some of the drivers did run with last time around. Let's take a look back at the moment for Luke Powell. So this is the first issue where he's gone a bit loose, and then as he tries to get rolling, I don't know actually. On a second look, that's an interesting one. Powell was definitely slow, but was there still overlap when Logsdale turned in, and did Logsdale just turn himself across the nose? Well, we will. Oh, there we go. Incident between car 16 and 222 on lap 4. So that's Dean Logsdale and Luke Powell. And Luke Powell, 10-second penalty for that one.
Yep, so the stewards have obviously had a look at it. Tim Nicol and in race control has had a look at that alongside Todd Martin, and they've both agreed that there is something that Luke Powell is at fault for in that situation. Obviously, as you said, it looked a bit close on our screen, but we're not the stewards. We don't, unfortunately, fortunately, I think for us, we don't have to sit and make those distinctions. We get to just sit back and watch and
form our own opinions. It's much easier to just throw our opinions around without having to back them up.
Yeah, that's right. The armchair experts, if you will, we get to sit here and just talk about it.
That's a great idea. I should get an armchair for this.
I think that's what we're missing. I think maybe we should just sit in armchairs, and I think that'd be much more fantastic if we did that. Maybe we'll have to talk to the props team and get some investment happening in that. But Andrew Hoffman, he's just gone past Tommy DeWitt. Tommy DeWitt sort of let him go, and he's moved up into 18th place. The first car in the queue that has stopped so far is Brian Borg, who's technically classed as serving 2 stops. He hasn't done 2 stops, he just started from the pit lane, so he is pushing as much as he can. He's currently closing in on Mick Rudd, but he's sitting in 22nd place and a tall ask to get back to the top 10 in this one.
Now, in saying that, and look, our telemetry gives and it takes. It's not always right on the money in terms of the longer gaps, but if my maths is any good, the gap from Borg to Buchanan at the moment is about 47 seconds. So it is going to be a fair bit of work, but if Brian Borg ends up only about 10 seconds behind Buchanan after Buchanan comes out of the pits, that is a pretty monumental effort to only lose 10 seconds from a pit lane start here this evening. I'd be very interested to see, and we might see if we can find him leaving the pits actually. I wonder just how little margin Borg had between the cars coming past and the pit exit being open and him actually coming out on track. There can't have been much in that at all, I wouldn't think.
I don't think there would have been much in that, really. It's hard to tell without going back and looking at it, but I think that would have been fairly close. This is Jason Bentz in P2. We're going to go back and, here we go, we're going to get a replay of exactly what has unfolded, and this is we're looking for Brian Borg, who will appear. There he is in the lane, gets to go, and we will get exactly as if on cue.
Yeah, you know what?
We'll get the story.
He's I would have thought that he I honestly had a bit of a question in my mind as to whether or not he had actually waited for the entire queue to go past, or had come out as some of the last cars came past. But he actually was a fair way back by the time he actually got back in the driver's seat and got rolling again. So nothing untoward about that. He's just really driving angry now, I guess, and making up a fair chunk of time as a result. Whether or not it's going to be enough to catch the likes of Buchanan and Benson pointing up the front is another thing altogether. But, geez, you've got to hand it to him for the effort so far.
Yeah, the effort he's put in is, well, it's fantastic. The good thing for Borg is that there is a drop round that he can take. So if this is his lowest point scoring round of the season, then he will drop this and it won't actually count towards his points anyway, as everyone else will have to drop their worst round as well. But look, it's, again, he's doing what he can. It's Demon's limitation just in case on that off chance. You never know when your worst round is going to be, and he could turn up next week, God forbid, and have an absolute shocker at Phillip Island and finish last in both races or DNF a race. So if he can salvage every single point that he can and drive the wheels off that thing, he's now got massive amounts of clean air. He's got 16 seconds to Tommy DeWitt, so he has so much clean air that he can just push in now. And we're watching this battle between Ustaval and Abel Verban, and battles like this will be helping Borg, because this is going to slow these guys down. And if Borg has clean air and these guys are all battling in the mid-pack, it's going to mean that he closes up to them a lot easier.
Yeah, the problem he's really facing at the moment, though, is Will Buchanan and the amount of space and time that he's got. Look at that, no one on the track in front of him. For as far as you can see, 4.5 seconds is racking up pretty quickly to Bent's behind. Benson Point will start to battle a bit as well, which is going to slow them both down. Behind them, Varga and Stone Street are getting caught up in it as well. But Will Buchanan, look, for some drivers, this is some of the toughest racing you'll do, is on your own and having to maintain pace without any reference drivers around you. But for Buchanan, he's just absolutely relishing the clean air. His last lap at 22.6. By comparison, Benson Point behind, 23.1 and 23.04. Stephen Varga and Stone Street, 23.1 and 22.7. So Stone Street is actually about the closest in terms of race pace. The thing to note, though, Brian Borg, 22.52 last time around, so he is slowly but surely pulling back just a tenth here and there on Will Buchanan each lap. It's going to be hard to see from that distance, but he is making the move. Yeah, he is pushing as hard as he can, and it's not massive difference compared to the guys at the front of the field with that 22.5, but everyone in front of him in that mid-pack is in the 23s, so he is actually gaining time on everyone in the mid-pack. So while it's not getting him inroads on someone like Will Buchanan and Jason Bentz, realistically, from the position you're in, as good as Brian Borg is, he's not going to catch them anyway. What he's thinking about is getting himself deep into that top 10, maybe looking at a top 5 if the pace goes his way. So pushing as hard as he can in relation to the cars that he's trying to jump. And looking at Dean Logsdale, Dean Logsdale's 21st in this battle pack with Chad Varga and Brad Horsell. If he can hold on, he came into the pits in about 14th place, which means Brian Borg, in theory, should come out at the back end of the top 10 here. It'll be interesting to see if it does actually balance out that way, or if indeed our telemetry is just playing games with us again. It's always hard to tell what it's going to do on any given night, and it's just something to do with the way that iRacing actually outputs some of the gap data. It's unfortunately not quite as exact as I'd probably like it to be, but then, you know, you can't argue with it. It's pretty well sorted most of the time. So we'll keep an eye on this battle, because it is towards the front end of those who have pitted. That said, though, Brian Borg, look at the gap he's already opened up. Tony Chapman behind has just come out of the pits, and so has come out at the head of this group of Vigar, Logsdale, Horsell and Sipple. So this pack will absolutely try and stick together through what is around about half of this race distance to go here. The Gard Supercar Championship Alliance Sim Racing on your Tuesday nights, as always, folks. Hope you're enjoying the racing here this evening from Winton. And Season 9 has certainly put on some pretty top-notch racing. Tonight, a bit less refined, a little more scrappy, perhaps, than some of the opening races, but no less fun to watch from my perspective.
No, it's been fantastic to watch, and I think from a viewer perspective, some of the drivers in the cockpit will certainly be a little bit hot-headed, not too happy with the way some incidents have gone, but from a commentary perspective, hopefully from a viewer perspective as well at home, this has been some fantastic action. And Winton, it's a tight circuit, it's not very wide, so there's not a lot of room to spread out, and with the amount of cars on the grid, it's certainly provided the action with some non-stop, like everywhere you look, there's battles. We're missing things. That's how much is happening out there tonight, and it's, especially at a circle like this, sometimes it's hard to keep up with everything that is happening, and there's nothing wrong with when there's so much happening out on this circuit, having to go back and watch a replay or two because there's a lot of action that you're trying to keep up with. This battle at the moment is fantastic. This is some great racing. Dean Logsdale's actually skirted off into the distance. Chad Vigar's going to have a go at Brett Horsell in the background as well.
I think
still watching Dean Logsdale. He did. He's gone off. He's disappeared. He's shot back.
Yeah, he's struggled a bit there, and I think that's how Logsdale got past in the first place, because he was riding behind him coming into that chicane, and then we went to the curb cam, and Chad Vigar has just disappeared from the action. Let's go back and see if we can get a view on the Chubby Buns replay of what's happened here, because I think Vigar's got it all sorts of wrong through the chicane. Oh, gone very, very deep onto the dirt, and that's cost him a huge amount of speed. So no damage, but it's set him back a long way in that group.
Yeah, it has all that hard work. He really just went for that overtake, and unfortunately, it's now all come undone. He's got to put all the time and effort back in. Brian Borg up to 13th. Brad Hayes is coming into the lane. Keep in mind, everyone. Oh, there's a couple of cars in front of him. So Varga, Poynton, and Bentz have all stopped in front of Borg, but Burns, Osterwald, Verban upwards have not stopped yet, so there could be still a few spots from the game. Poynton is getting the elbows out with Bentz. This, I believe, is projected for the podium, so how these guys are battling could affect the back end of that podium when we get to the end of the race.
Yeah, you'd have to say at this point that these guys are going to come out pretty much, or rather Will Buchanan's going to come out ahead of these two, and then I would expect that Troy Stonestreet will probably slot in somewhere just about in between Stephen Varga and Brian Borg. Vargas is having a great run. We're going to find out pretty soon because Stonestreet is into the pits now, so let's keep a close eye on that on the tower. I think he'll come out probably just behind Varga, maybe just ahead. It'll depend on the next few corners. Point and Benso continuing this battle, and neither one of them looking to give an inch here. Mark Poynton just looking for any way past Jason Benz at this stage. Can't quite find it at the moment, but you can see he's carrying a lot of pace and keeps getting up close and personal with the rear bar of that Quantum car.
Yeah, he's really putting the pressure on at the moment with Jason Benz. Look, they are fighting, they are scrapping. Here comes Stonestreet out behind. He's actually going to drop behind Stephen Varga. Joel Osterwald's also the pit exit, but he's been jumped by Brian Borg. So Borg will come out in front of Joel Osterwald and inside the top 10. So it's only one spot in the 10, but he is very much inside the 10, and with Trav Daly, Abel Verban, Ricky Hyde, Nick Geary left to stop. There could be a position or two up for grabs as he pushes on. But yeah, again, an opportunity now for Borg to get back into the... I think that's a fantastic effort. Start at the back of the field, to pit early like he has and put in the effort. Come back to the 10 is fantastic. In the foreground, Chad Vigar's going for an overtake on Troy Sipple, who's going to drive back underneath him. Go for an overtake at turn 4. This is a nice battle between these two. A little bit loose there from Sips. I think there was a bit of a touch-up between himself and Vigar, and it just unsettled the car ever so slightly, and that's invited Darryl Callahan on through and promoted him up a position. But this is Horsell and Luke Powell. This is 15th on the road they're battling for. Burns is riding behind this. Vigar also not too far off that group as well. Meanwhile, Bentz and Poynton also going at it at the front of the field.
Buchanan in the pit bay right now, so we're going to get a very, very good look in just a few moments as to exactly where they are. Buchanan's out of the pit bay, he's getting out of the lane now, should be just about to exit the lane, so these guys will be neck and neck. You're about to see, I think, Will Buchanan just ahead. There he is, coming through the chicane, so he's still maintaining a couple of seconds over both Bentz and Poynton at the moment. He'll be feeling pretty comfortable with that sort of a lead. There's 10 laps to go. I think there's not going to be much that can stop him now. These guys might pull back maybe a half second as he gets those tyres up to temp, and we're assuming he's taken tyres, but I don't think there'll be any catching him. It'll just be a question whether Bentz and Poynton can hold it together. They'll both want to battle for that second step on the podium, but if they can keep it together and not get too involved in it, they're both pretty much guaranteed a podium here as well, because the gap back to Stephen Varga, a little over 3 seconds, is a tough one to make up. That said, there's a little bit of lap traffic just ahead as well, in the form of Craig Rose, so hopefully he'll find a good opportunity down these straights to get a move on and get out of the way. Joel Osterwald just goes a little bit up the inside there, and you can see in the foreground it looks like Craig Rose off the road as well, so a few of these guys just starting to discover a little bit of a limit to what the tyres are happy to continue delivering for them and find themselves off the track in some unusual spots.
Yeah, certainly finding some unconventional places to go off the road, aren't they? Nick Geary in the lane. So it's only Ricky Hyde out there that is left to stop in this race. Brian Borg up to 8th place. That is a brilliant comeback drive from Brian Borg to be up to 8th, and it's not done yet. I have no doubt he'll try and gain a position or two before this race is over as he continues to push on. Looking at this battle, this is Abel Verban, Joel Osterwald. Verban's just come out of the pits, possibly on a fresh set of boots, and will be under a little bit of pressure here from Joel Osterwald as those tyres come up to temperature.
West Stone Street just setting the fastest lap of the race on his relatively fresh set of tyres, a 21.29. And if I'm not mistaken, that makes him the first driver into the ones tonight. Stephen Vargas set a 22 flat. No, sorry, not the first driver in, but certainly the quickest. Brian Borg at 21.78 was recorded at some point. Benz and Buchanan both into the mid-21s as well. I stand corrected, but Stone Street definitely mixing it up in terms of pace and probably just down to the clear air that he managed to find himself in on the way out of the pits. It's given him quite a bit of room to work with, and really it does just demonstrate how tough it is at Winton when you do get caught behind somebody. Like this entire group here that are all just tucked in behind Brett Horsell at the moment. Horsell not turning slow laps, but certainly a fair way off the top end of the pace, and the group behind all without much of an option at the moment. They're not close enough to really to force a move. Although I would expect that we'll probably see Luke Powell think about something if he gets half a sniff at it. But everyone else just settling in at the moment.
Yeah, getting the rhythm in, look, there's only a few laps to go, but everyone's just trying to establish where they are with the time left. They don't want to make any big moves now. They just want to start to size up who's around them, who's got the pace, and if you're someone like Mark Poynton, you are starting to try and assess where Jason Bence is vulnerable. We spoke about this at the back end of race number 1 for Will Buchanan and Brian Borg. Borg just sitting in behind on that occasion. So Mark Poynton is watching Jason Bence, seeing where he's stronger than Bence, where he's quicker, and just trying to work out exactly where the best place on this circuit is going to be for him to make a move, because he doesn't want to go for the move or if it's a corner where, Bence is stronger on the exit, he's going to get the better drive off the corner. So using a bit of that racecraft, a bit of those Supercars drivers smarts that a lot of these guys have to really just analyse the car in front and do it all on the fly while they're thinking about their own cars as well. It's a brilliant talent that they all have just to try and read their opponent.
Yeah, plenty of time spent racing each other for a lot of these guys as well. So you do tend to pick up a fair bit of how everyone drives, if you can remember how each and everybody does drive out on track. But these battles, we've seen Benson pointing at it a few times already this season, and so they're no stranger to racing with each other. Further back in the pack, this one continues behind Horsell at the moment. Luke Powell still hasn't found a way through, but Paul Burns and Chad Vigar have closed in a little further behind. Darryl Callahan just hanging on the back as well. Here comes Brian Borg. He's gotten past Nick Geary up into 6th place now. So really storming home. Will Buchanan out in front by almost just over now, 5.5 seconds. That gap is just going to continue to grow as Benson and Poynton carry on their little battle. It is definitely slowing them down. Buchanan's last lap, a 21.6 compared to his 21.4 best lap. So he is absolutely motoring at the moment. By comparison, Benson and Poynton almost a second slower.
Yeah, they are not super quick out there at the moment, and well, that's partly because they are battling, and Benson's more focused about keeping Poynton behind than he is about trying to catch Will Buchanan in front at the moment. He knows he probably hasn't got the pace to catch him. Brian Borg, 10 seconds away from Stone Street. I think it's a tall ask to get there from here. Looking at the lap times, there's not a major amount of difference between them to try and catch. And we're looking at this battle now. This is 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th on the road. This is a nice little battle pack.
Yeah, the same group just really swapping some positions around, but Brett Horsell maintaining a spot at the front of this pack. For the moment, at least. Tony Chapman and Dean Logsdale finding their way together behind Trav Daly again just battling out around that P10 spot, and Tony Chapman has been relatively consistent this evening, but getting caught up in a couple of minor little incidents throughout. Trav Daly, though, has been on a bit of a charge for M1 Racing. He's up 11 spots since he started, so just getting the best out of the car here in the second race. The first one, probably one that didn't go all his way, getting caught up in that pretty sizable little nose-to-tail incident in the corner we've just gone through. That sent him back a fair way, but it is starting to look a little bit more promising for him this time around. Nick Geary actually taking it to Brian Borg now, goes up the inside. I don't know if Borg had a poor exit on the last one, but Geary managed to get nose back in front. Borg says, no way, Jose. I will have another crack at that, but Geary's going to find himself set up on the inside coming into 1 and 2, so he's going to defend this one and push Brian Borg all the way to the outside, and Geary's actually going to come through the Motorsport News Essence ahead and staying in that 6th position.
That's a brilliant move from Geary. Just defend that. Brian Borg's going to throw everything at him to get back past. But Geary, he's racing really well here. And again, I feel like much like we saw last season with a couple of those Trophy Cup class drivers, he is driving above and beyond his class and proving why he should be ranked in the pro class from next season moving forward. And it's great to see those Trophy Cup guys just stepping up, really just taking it to these guys inside the top 10 and absolutely holding their own like Nick Geary currently is.
This one continues. Oh, there's contact, and that's going to be Paul Burns opening to Luke Powell with a hairpin. Powell around. Darryl Callahan gets stuck in it again. So that's just unlucky. No damage for Callahan. Almost collects Rick Vigar as he's coming through as well. Callahan just has to wait it out. Couldn't go anywhere. And the two M1 Racing entries of Powell and Callahan drop all the way back through. So just a little bit of contact there initially for Paul Burns, but in sliding across the track out of control has collected Luke Powell, and I don't think it gets much worse than that.
No, that was a huge incident between those guys, and very, very messy, and you can see that coming from a little while away. Once you get on the grass, it is so hard to call these cars up to get them to come to a stop, and yeah, once you're sort of a passenger from that point. So very disappointing indeed for all those guys involved, but I'll try and just get their heads back on straight and continue pushing on. There's a little while to go yet in this race. This is Troy Stonestreet looking for a way past Vargas, is putting the pressure on, absolutely searching him. Vargas is really trying to catch up to Poynton Benson. He's closed the gap in a little bit. It was over 3 seconds. It's now under 3, about 2.3 seconds, but it's it's not great.
The top 5 tonight, so much quicker. I mean, Buchanan, yeah, absolutely storming away. It's almost 8 seconds now over Benson Point, but the gap from Stonestreet here in 5th back to Nick Geary in 6th is almost 11 seconds. So the top 5 here this evening absolutely making the most of their track space and also their pit stops to completely dominate this one.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing. The undercut, the pit stops, they've played a big factor this evening. Whether some drivers, I think, realised it or not, there was a conjecture over whether tyres were taken, but I believe the consensus we've come to is that tyres were absolutely taken this evening, and it's paid the difference, especially for drivers like Brian Borg, who's worked his way through this field and he's worked really hard to get there. This is Abel Verbein. He's on a fresh set of boots, but just struggling at the moment to get past Brad Hayes. He's got Joel Osterwald behind him. Joel's been putting pressure on him ever since he came out of the pits, so that was a number of laps ago now, and Verbein is desperately trying to get past Brad Hayes, but he's also got to keep one eye on the rearview mirror.
Yeah, thankfully the tyres all fairly similar here, only about a lap difference between each of them. It is around that kind of 8 to 10 lap-ish mark that these tyres seem to fall off a little bit of a cliff for a few laps. So this is the danger zone. Oh, big moment there for Joel Osterwald under brakes, and he turns Abel Verbein at the hairpin. That's the second time in as many laps as we've seen that same kind of an incident happen. And I think the tyres, I was just about to say, where these drivers need to be careful is they'll be in that real lull in the tyres level of grip. And we've seen it happen almost back to back, with drivers just not quite being able to pull the car up through that very heavily rippled section of braking zone. at the backside of the circuit. Thankfully, not massive damage to either car there, but Verban and Rustival have really resigned themselves to where they are in the field now. That takes them well out of any hope of sticking with Brad Hayes further up, and Brad Hayes can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that P12 is pretty much his.
Yeah, he's pretty comfortable in P12 now, and look, he was under pressure, but that mistake has absolutely cost Abel Verban, putting him under pressure from Joel Osterwald. Well, a great deal. And Brett Horsell's actually not too far off the back of that either, within 7/10, so that could become a three-way battle for a 13th place very, very soon. This is still going on. Benson Point, and they've come out of the pits like this a number of laps ago. Both these guys pitted on a lap 11 and lap 12 respectively, and ever since Benz came out of the lane, this is how it's been. They have not yielded for the past 10-11 laps. Incident between car 016 and car 110 on lap 20, a drive-through penalty post-race. I believe that will be for car 110, Paul Burns.
Which is an interesting one. I'm not so sure that'll be for Burns, actually. I could be wrong, but Chad Vigar, I think, might have been the one who spat Burns onto the grass and sent him sliding across into Luke Powell. So I'm not entirely certain that will be a post-race for 110, but yeah, we'll leave that one because I don't have a much better view, and we are getting into the very dying stage of this one. Just a lap and a half to go. Will Buchanan out to almost 9 seconds over Benson Point, who are here battling it out for the rest of the podium. Behind them, Stephen Varga and Troy Stonestreet. Not too far at the back, but probably just a little too far to play any part at the front end of this field. There's plenty of battles not too far behind them, though, as Brian Borg still continues this battle with Nick Geary, and Ricky Hyde, as a result, has caught right up to them. So that'll be a little three-way battle going on for a while there. Dean Logsdale just behind has joined with Trav Daly at the back end of the top 10, and these two will fight it out for just a couple of extra points over this last lap that lies ahead. We're just about to see the white flag out for Will Buchanan as he comes across the line, so this will be the final lap for tonight. Oh, just absolutely dominating here tonight, and it does seem to be shaping up that way for this season. But he's had it taken to him a few times. Brian Borg would have been there. Nick Geary just overcooks it, and that's going to cut off Brian Borg. Just the dream for Ricky Hyde. Picks up 2 spots for absolutely nothing. Nick Geary stays ahead of Borg as they come across to collect the white flag. They'll go one more lap. I don't know quite how that one's going to play out either with the stewards. Stephen Varga and Troy Stonestreet continue to battle. I think Jason Benson's got Mark Poynton's number at this stage. Poynton just can't quite get within that 4/10 mark, but Stonestreet really keen to push on and try and pick up one extra spot here if he can. As we get to the hairpin, looks to the outside, trying to set up again. A 5-second penalty there for Luke Powell for the earlier collision with Ash Hall. So there's a few things going on. Not massive necessarily, but certainly will impact on other people's races. Brian Borg almost has Nick Geary here. He can't quite get alongside. I don't know if he's quite going to get there either. Will Buchanan's just about to get to the final set of turns, so he'll be coming across the line in no time. Here he comes to take both wins here this evening.
Well done.
Yeah, look, can't argue with that. It's fallen his way in a couple of different ways. Jason Benson, Mark Point, though, will come home second and third. Stephen Varga and Troy Stonestreet fourth and fifth, and then quite a gap back to Ricky Hyde now. And the last close battle in the top 10, and Nick Geary is going to hold on for now at least, provisionally speaking, and I say that because I'm not quite sure what they'll make of the contact. But Brian Borg comes home in 8th, which he probably won't be happy with, but hard to be upset when you started dead last and fought your way through the entire field. And, we see a post-race penalty for Joel Listerval with contact with Verban earlier.
Verban contact, yep. So that's
what's happened here?
Oh, this is all going on. Right at the line as well.
Well, I don't know what's happened to Andrew Hoffman there. He's really struggled to get out of the corner. He's lost a spot at the death to Paul Burns.
I don't think it'll be fuel. I don't think fuel will be the factor there, but that is a strange
really
one.
Unusual.
That was a strange one for Andrew Hoffman. Quick shout out to Dean Logsdale, who came home in 10th. That is a fantastic result to get back into 10 after a bit of a trying evening again, but a top 10 result. He'll take some confidence from that, I'm sure, and continue to build on that as we head to Phillip Island next week. But what a fantastic race, and Will Buchanan, he's been untouchable tonight, hasn't he? This man on screen, he has been absolutely fantastic from start to finish in both races, and really laying down the gauntlet in what is going to be a very, very tough season and a very hotly contested championship. You can't help but feel.
Yeah, you'd have to think so. The results come through. Will Buchanan takes a win by just over 8 seconds in the end. It looked like it was going to be well more than that, but he's backed it off and just made sure he brought it home in one piece. Jason Bentz just keeps Mark Point at bay. Stephen Varga does the same to Troy Stone Street. Then Ricky Hyde gets a bit of a free pass late in the game to 6th. Nick Geary and Brian Borg 7th and 8th in the end. Trav Daly and Dean Logsdale rounding out your top 10. Tony Chapman rather, and Brad Hayes behind them. Then Verban, Ustaval, Horsell and Vigar all coming home in reasonably quick succession. Troy Sipple ahead of Paul Burns as Andrew Hoffman getting the position taken at the line. Rick Vigar not quite sneaking past though to round out your top 20. Behind them, Tommy DeWitt in 21st, then Luke Powell and Darryl Callahan with Scott Perrins and Ash Hall, then Jace Douglas, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Mick Rudd and Craig Rose both down a lap. Jamie McKnight and Josh Harris not starting the second race here this evening. And geez, what an interesting final race that was. That was some moments in there that I think will be looked back at, and we might hear a bit more yet post race and see a few post race penalties applied. Whether or not that'll affect the overall result, I don't. Look, I'm not so convinced of that. But a really fun race here at Winton, considering the challenges of a supercar around this place.
Yeah, it is. Look, especially in a Gen 3 supercar, a little bit wider, a little bit larger than the previous generation cars. It's even harder with the lack of aero to get them rotated through the corners as well. And I'm sure we'll hear from the drivers about that coming up. But look, it is provided. It is a fantastic case as to why supercars racing should be held here more often, not only in the virtual world in iRacing with the fantastic ability that we have to do Gen 3 supercars racing here, but even in real life it'd be fantastic to see these cars getting around. And look, it has its critics, that's for sure, but every track does, and I think it's delivered here this evening with what has been some fantastic racing, and now we get to have a chat to some drivers about it.
We do indeed, and we'll start off with the man himself, who has just absolutely dominated here this evening. It is, of course, none other than Will Buchanan, who joins us now. G'day, Will.
Hey boys, how are you?
Mate, we are doing pretty well. You made that look pretty comfortable this evening. Winton obviously gelling pretty well for you.
Yeah, the one lap pace wasn't quite there for quali tonight, but the race pace was definitely there, so pretty happy with that. Yeah, bit of experience from the start of the year doing Pro Series, the qualifying series for that. It was here, so I was pretty comfortable with the track from the get-go.
Mate, it certainly doesn't hurt to be out in front. We saw a couple of turn 1, lap 1 incidents here tonight that really did threaten to put a damper on a lot of drivers' evenings. But being out in front, the way to go here this evening, I reckon it's kept you pretty much out of harm's way tonight, and allowed you quite a lot of track space to play with. Did you feel like there was ever going to be much of a challenge from other drivers tonight, or when we think about Brian Borg, the stroke of bad luck that he had in the first, did you think you were going to catch him had he not been turned?
Yes, we predicted we were going to come out 4 seconds in front of him, but I got on my outlap or something. I got tangled up with another car and I had to readdress because I just didn't think the move was on. So I lost 4 seconds there. So that's why I came out like right behind him. So we should have came out in front and would have been trying to defend that. But yeah, that's unfortunate for Brian with lap cars turning there.
Well, mate, it's the nature of racing, isn't it? Sometimes it just it doesn't quite go your way tonight, it's definitely gone yours. A couple of very, very handy little wins up the sleeve and some more points in the run to the championship. Before we let you go, as always, an opportunity to say hello to anyone you like or to give a shout out to your sponsors, mate.
Yeah, just shout out to all the RER boys and all our sponsors, AITX, Shieldcoat, Sudspeed, Kibby, IR Sidekick and Slady's Gossworks. All the support they give us behind the scenes, we can't express how grateful we are for that.
Great to chat to you again tonight, Will. Congratulations on the results, and mate, no doubt we'll chat to you at some point again this season, I'm sure.
Too easy, fellas. Take care.
Will Buchanan takes the win in race number 2. Second place on the podium despite the long battle. He's managed to hold on and gets it home in second. It is, of course, Jason Bentz from Quantum Racing who joins us now. G'day, Jace. How are you?
Yeah, good. Bit worn out after that one. 2 quick fire races there, one after the other.
Mate, Winton is always a workout. We were saying this in the pre-race chat that Isaac and I were having. It's a tough track to get a Gen 3 supercar around, but to do it for what must have felt like the full 25 laps, battling it with Mark Poynton there in race 2, you must be absolutely exhausted.
I think about 6 laps into race 1, my hands were aching. I was like, I think I'm going to pull over.
Yes, that is a rough start to your Tuesday night, hey?
Yeah.
Well, mate, you've held on and you've survived, and to come away with a podium, can't argue with that. It was always going to be second or third by the look of things, and I don't know, was there a point where you decided that you didn't want to push too hard with Poynton and risk the car, or you were pretty comfortable racing in close proximity with him for such a long time?
Yeah, if you slow the car up well enough in the middle of the corner, it doesn't matter how fast the guy behind is, you sort of get a good run out and you've got the gap till the next corner, which is pretty much all I could do. Slow it down more to get the drive out. He was catching me into the corners, but I was getting the drive out, focusing on the drive out.
Well, mate, it's all it's taken tonight, and it's come away with a nice little haul of points to continue your run in this championship. Congratulations on the results again this evening, and as always, if there's anyone you want to say hi to or give a shout out to the boys at Quantum or anyone else, then now's the time.
Shout out to Borgie, unlucky race 1, taken out by, oh well.
Yeah, that was rough.
Tripped over my three teammates, so sorry, man. But yeah,
Jason,
other than that, thanks for the broadcast.
Mate, always a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to have a chat again soon.
Yep, cheers.
Jason Bentz there takes P2, and third place on the podium this evening. We are joined now by, we'll almost call him a regular in the booth by this point, I reckon. Mark Poynton for Frog Leap Juice Racing jumps back in with us. G'day, Mark. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Jason feeling pretty sore and tired after that one. I imagine you're much the same.
Yeah. I've pretty sick and tired of seeing the back of his car. That's for sure. It was,
well, you studied in detail tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to have a little night terrors tonight about it. But it was a good race. Jason and I mean, it's just such a tough place to pass. You're really waiting for the other guy to make a mistake, and I did try to undercut in the pit stop. Maybe if Jason hadn't come in on when he did and stayed out one more lap, I could have got him, but it got spicy as he came out the pits for a few laps, but it was a good race.
Good fun to watch, and at least it gave us a podium battle, because Will just too quick here tonight. Did you think you might have stuck with him at some point there, or did you just walk away all night tonight?
No, I've not. I mean, thankfully we're an Australian track, so I've turned laps here before, but previous to tonight's race, I had done zero practice, so I hadn't turned a lap other than logging in just before the race to do some. So I didn't come in tonight all that confident, but Will's pace tonight, I think even if I had a practice mate, I would have stayed with him, and a bit of a shame with Brian as well. Brian had some really good pace, so got dealt a unlucky card tonight, but it's racing.
Yeah, that it is, mate. Well, it's landed in your favour for this evening at least, and some good extra points for you in the championship. Congrats on the results. of course,
Thank you.
across the evening. Hopefully contributes to the battle that we're seeing to start to shape up at the top of the tower. But of course, still early days and still plenty of time for it to all iron itself out. Before we let you go, as always, anyone you want to say hello to?
Thank you to you guys. First of all, you guys always do a fantastic job. So thank you to Race Control and the organisers, and then as a team perspective, thanks to Juiced Energy and Stodhawk for their support.
Always a pleasure, Mark, and look forward to chatting to you again at some point soon, I'm sure.
Likewise. Cheers, guys.
Mark Winton there rounds out the podium this evening. And look, some bad luck for a few drivers tonight, Isaac, but some good racing all the same. It was always going to be an interesting one. Winton never a track that's easy to get around at the best of times, and with such close competition and a decent sized field here tonight, I think we probably got about the number of incidents that I was expecting. I'm glad we didn't see more, but I never expected we wouldn't see some.
Yeah, it's one of those places, isn't it? You never know really. Like you think you know what to expect coming into it, but when we got there, it was certainly a little bit different to how I was expecting tonight to play out. The racing was, there was elbows out. It was fantastic. There was a bit of carnage, a bit of chaos, and that's what we've come to expect from ASR as a whole, rather than just a specific circuit. But we go to Phillip Island next week. It's much more open. Turn one is certainly can provide some challenges as well, with everyone going side by side and trying to sort stuff out in that very, very fast right-hander. So I'm looking forward to seeing what takes place next week when we get there as well. But look, tonight has continued the trend that ASR delivers on the racing product that we come to expect from these Gen 3 supercars, and I have no doubt that will continue for the course of the rest of the season.
Make sure you don't miss any of the action. Of course, that's next week. We've got more racing tomorrow night right here on Simple Racing Broadcast. The MC Motorsport GT3 Championship begins a new season as well, and we're expecting a very, very full grid, 40-plus cars on the cards for the opening round at Spa tomorrow night. And then, of course, I've mentioned this a couple of times over the last few broadcasts on the channel, but this weekend, the iRace ANZ Chat Show broadcaster battle will be on. Yours truly will be racing in it. Isaac, I think you might have been racing in it, but we'll see. I don't know if you're making it along this weekend.
I was racing in it, and I've decided that instead I'm moving house. So that's
probably a reasonable trade-off, I reckon.
Oh, look, depending on who you ask, it is. Depending on who you ask, it isn't. But look, I will be very much watching on and cheering yourself on, Jared. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you go, and I think there's already a bit of trash talk going on amongst the broadcasters, which is great to see, because look, there was a bit of trash talk going on for myself as well, but we all have a lot of words, but I don't think we all have a lot of skill to back it up, so we'll wait and see what happens on the weekend, but I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be great fun, no doubt. So make sure you tune into that. I'll get a link up at some point on the channel page if you do want to go looking for it, folks. Otherwise, as always, a massive thank you tonight to Solagard Saint-Gobain for their continued support of the Alliance Sim Racing Supercar Championship. They're on board for another season. It's great to have them helping to keep this league up and running and delivering the amazing racing you see each and every time they're out on track. As always, a huge thank you to our other sponsors as well: West Automotive, Quantum Tint Solutions, Tim Nicol Photography, Chubby Buns Burgers, of course, and the 24/7 Sim Services guys up in Race Control, who got a little bit of a workout tonight, but no safety cars this evening as iRacing approaches. What are we now? About 5 minutes out from the maintenance period. So, folks, if you want to get your downloads in for the demo drive stuff, now's the time to do it. Well, it might be a tad late to get it started, but give it a crack anyway. Until next time, though, from all of us here at Simple, my name's Jared Cole. We've been in the booth with Isaac Fogarty, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you along once again. It is goodbye for now.